Good afternoon. My name is Gregory Corbin. I am the founder and the executive director of the Philadelphia Youth Poetry Movement, otherwise known as PYPM, not PYMP. Some people, they want to misspell it, and it comes out pimp, and that's not what it's about. So real quick, just a quick roll call. When I say PY, you say PM. PY. PM. That was whack. Your mouth didn't move. Yes, I'm calling you out. PY. PM. PY. PM. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so it's a couple of things we really want to talk about. I want to discuss the power of mentorship and holistic education, and what does it look like. We do a lot of things. Recently, we just did a TED Talk about maybe 4 or 5 months ago, Denise Froman and myself. And we talked about the 5 E's of engagement. And the 5 E's of engagement, which we focus on, are expression, exploration, education, empowerment. And together, all these intertwine to discuss engagement. How do you keep young people in general, still enough to have their attention so that they can be creative? In creative expression, we deal with poetry. We do writing workshops. We do writing residencies. We do performance workshops. We do curriculum work. We do a lot, but the main thing that we really focus on is creating a safe space for our young people to express themselves so they could be the person that they truly are meant to be. We live in a society where people want to hide who they are because it's cool to keep mystery involved with your relationships. That's how you maintain power. That's something that we're taught. We're conditioned and trained that way. But the reality of it is we're not being transparent enough to be who we were meant to be. Now, as I go on, you'll see the power of vulnerability within this whole presentation. Don't want to go into that yet. Got a quick question. The first thing, how many people in this room have mentored before in some type of way? Okay, that's great. Now, I grew up in a household with both my parents. So I had mentors and I had role models, but I had my parents. And my parents meant a lot. But I want to focus on my father real quick. And my father was a man's man, meaning he could fix the entire house with his hands. He could fix the entire car, and if he did not know how to fix anything on the car, he would pick up a book and learn. He was self-sufficient by all means. But what happens when children of today, young people of all walks of life, no matter what their race, religion, ethnic background, what happens when they don't have that figure in their life? There's a saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Who picks up the pieces in these broken homes, in foster care, in broken relationships of all sorts? The youth voice being submerged. These are real live tweets. These are from students that I've worked with. I'd rather be wanted for murder than not be wanted at all. Everybody craves for affection. Everybody wants to be loved. There is a huge lack of intimacy and a huge fear of it at the same time because nobody wants to let somebody in when they think they're going to leave. Second one, public school student. My school doesn't have new textbooks, but I can tell you where to get a gun. The blatant reality of today's youth. Quick question. What's the biggest mistake that you have made when it comes to investing your money? Think about it. Now I want to bring the crowd into this. I want you to give me some feedback. Anybody, what's the biggest mistake that you have made investing? Huh? You sold Apple stock? Yeah, that's pretty messed up, yeah. iPad 4s rock. Anyway, anybody else? Cigarettes, oh yeah, it's gonna be a medical company that loves you very much. But think about the Louis Vuitton bag that you spent $1,000 on when you could have paid your gas bill. Think about the organic cookies that you brought for $9.99 and they taste like Oreos and they give you the same amount of side effects. Or what about college and student loans? Another question, what's the biggest mistake that you have made when it comes to investing time? What about the bad relationship that you had? You stayed in it too long, for 2 years. You weren't even able to walk away with any lessons. Or what about the reality TV show that you love so much that you watch the reruns? I don't need to say nothing. But there are so many walks of life that we live in. Now, what about currency? The way we totally view currency. How about we rethink currency? Look at currency in a way where it's not just about money or how much I have to gain or how many stocks and bonds that I have, but what about my thoughts? What about my words? What about my voice? What about the exchange of being a human being? What if that was currency? And it is. Because if Steve Jobs does not think about Apple, then we don't have iPads, iPods, iMacs, I. What about Bill Gates and, of course, with Microsoft? Think about it. It's deep. The most neglected investment that we have today are our youth. We give them money and expect them to know what to do with it. Look at our school systems. In every major city, teachers are getting laid off, curriculums are being wasted, there are not enough textbooks, and the students are struggling and they're screaming, help, 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 please help me be a better person. See, the work we do is just not about being better poets, it's also about being better people. Key constructs of mentorship. First thing we got here is providing a safe space. When you provide a safe space, you allow a student to be who they want to be. No judgment, no criticisms, none of that at all. Emotionally secure, vulnerability is celebrated. Establishing a connection, speaking their language. For example, when I work with students, I often listen to what it is that they do, what it is that's working in their culture, what it is that's relevant. For example, you must got me chopped. I'm in front of a bunch of people right now, this moment, that are looking at me crazy because they don't understand. There is a communication breakdown. But I can go in a classroom and say that, and the students will bust out laughing and looking at me because of the age difference, but I automatically build a connection because you must got me chopped is a sort of slang they use, but you must got me chopped means you misunderstand me. You got the wrong one today. Or what about this one? I'm getting that guap. Anybody in here have a clue what guap is? Just out of context clues. What is guap? Money. I'm getting that mugga. Money. They found all types of ways to reinvent language. Our children of today are so brilliant and have that genius that they can create a whole nother language in front of our face, have a conversation, and we won't even pick up on the context clues. That's brilliant. That is genius. If it's not relevant, it ain't gonna fly. Building trust, staying power, and consistency. When you are not going to run, like most people in their lives, then you gain some type of trust. For example, I had a student come to me on Wednesday. During my lunch, during his lunch, he would not leave the classroom. He sat there and opened up and discussed how he felt about his mother dating a married man. He talked about how he felt about seeing somebody get their brains blown out at 8 years old. He talked about one of his mentors who actually killed himself in a game of Russian roulette. And he talked for almost an hour straight. I barely said anything at all. And he just wanted to talk. He just wanted to be heard. But he said it out his mouth. For whatever it is, I trust you, Mr. Corbin. I don't know why, and I know I just met you, but for whatever it is, I trust you. And he discussed it and talked about it in such a cathartic way. And at the end of the day, I end up mentoring him, giving him advice. At any given time, this kid can call me and talk about what's on his mind. Because if young people don't have a way to express themselves and release what they're going through, we're all in trouble. When we don't invest in them, then we're not investing in our future. We're neglecting ourselves. And that's a huge problem. Keeping the door open. Keeping the door open is simple. It's that moment where you realize that the mentorship isn't just about them being 16, 17, 18. It's also about them growing up through their 20s, their 30s. You're a mentor for life. We complete this disconnect where we're the adults and they're the children. No, we are them. And we forget because we want to put ourselves on a pedestal because we experience more. They're experiencing a lot, and they're not getting to express it, and they need a safe space for it. When they value their story, when they value who they are, when they value their voice, they start to value self. And when they value self, it builds confidence, it builds esteem, and it builds trust, and that they're making the right decisions. Investing in self, the inner transformation. First one is awareness. Being aware of your surroundings, being aware of what you're going through, all those things. The second one is experience, equals the stories and the lessons that we don't get to discuss enough. Third one, participation. Not just being spaced out in your head, but just living and being in the moment. 4, reflection. That moment when you sit down and you start processing your thoughts. And as these young people internalize these steps and what they're going through, they're able to move into the 5th step. And what's that? Implementation and applying it. Application, the most key thing to change. When our young people learn these lessons, they might make the same mistake 20 different times, but on the 21st time, they figure it out. They figure out and they're able to recognize it because they can slow their world down. And as they gain these tools, this inner transformation comes about. And through that internal education, which is part of holistic education, how do you help somebody mentally, spiritually, physically, psychologically, emotionally? When you teach to one aspect of a person, you're going to be in trouble. When you deal with one aspect of a person, you're already in trouble. I've taught in classes where there is a young lady who has been molested. There's another young guy whose father just got locked up. How can they focus on quadratic equations when they're trying to figure out what's going on with their family life? The best curriculum for self is inside. The schools want to make sure that we keep them in line with mathematics, when at the same time these statistics are killing their creativity and their humanity. And we are forgetting that they are people too. This inner transformation is that important. Speaking of give back, there's a young lady named Kavia Day. And I meet her 2007 in a writing workshop. And in 2007, Kavia is a poet that can write out this world. Was afraid to get up and stand in front of the class, though, and say her poems. The next year, Kavia came out for our slam poetry team. She actually makes the team in 2009, goes to Chicago, and stands up in front of a bunch of people and shares her story. Through all the workshops, all the coaching, all the trusting, all the building confidence, that her voice is important, that she is important, that there is value in my experience on this planet too. 2010, she's doing the same thing, but this time she goes to Los Angeles. What's important is when she comes back, Kavi ends up homeless. I let Kavi stay with me for about 2 months. When she finally gets her own apartment, guess what Kavi does? Kavi starts taking in other poets who have the same issues that she has. Kavi starts mentoring poets, giving them a place to come for a safe space, talking to them and being there for them, helping them with their poetry, but more importantly, helping them with their own growth in life. She is learning from what I invested in her, and she is giving it back. In 2011, at an international poetry competition featuring over 50 teams called Brave New Voices, Kavi coached a team of 5 poets to a championship in San Francisco at the age of 20. This is the same young lady when I met at 15, didn't want to stand up in front of a class from. When you invest in youth, it comes back with a higher interest rate, more positive, with exponential growth for the entire community. I'm gonna bring up a poet for y'all, and he is one of the members of the 2011 World Championship team from Philadelphia. I want you to give a round of applause for what I can say is my mentee, this young brother named Jamar Hall. He's gonna explain what's happening to the youth. Clap it up for Jamar Hall.
Good afternoon. All right, my name is Jamar Hall. I am 20 years old. I've been a member for PYPM, which is Philadelphia Youth Poetry Movement, for about 2 years now. We're about around to the two-year mark, this past January. And one thing that I noticed when I first started coming around PYPM is that it was a space where I could be myself. I wasn't, like in a classroom, it's a big difference because you have people that constantly judge you and make fun of you because, you know what I mean, they'll call you weird or automatically put you in one category of people, which would be just basically the exiles of the whole school. And you know, you're the kid that walks against lockers and, you know what I mean, you know how it feels to be bullied at some point in your life if you've ever been. And PYPM has taught me to be basically comfortable with who I am as a person and that I'm not actually weird, I'm just able to express myself in ways others can't. So that makes me creative in my own way. And one thing I did notice is that what kept me coming back every Saturday to these workshops wasn't the fact that they had snacks and things like that, you know what I mean, with poetry. It was the fact that these were adults that actually cared. It was a huge difference between them and my teachers, you know, throughout the weekdays. You know, it was like they showed, it's like if I invite you to a poetry event on Saturday, you can come and you can see how they work with kids throughout the day. But what you can't see is the moments after that program has ended, or as though they're driving us home or just taking us out to get something to eat. You know, moments that we can't invite you to, but moments that help build the relationship. And that's what really did it for me. That's what kept me coming around. And like I said, I'm 20 years old right now. I'm kind of aging out my teen years, but I'm also giving back, like he mentioned Kavi was in her story. And that's what I'm doing right now. And I just actually got a mentor. Speaking of mentor, I just actually picked up a mentee, actually. Last week, he actually came up to me and asked me, and I felt honored. And at the moment, I'm still happy right now. At the moment, I was more so like, yeah, I can be your mentor, that's okay, but I more so want to be your friend. You know what I mean? A person, because I'm about 2 years older than him. I'm still his friend, you know, somebody he can just call and talk to. So we can learn together because you're never too old to grow. Like no matter who tells you that you are. So I'm going to do a poem. The poem is entitled, What is Happening to Our Youth? So here we are. I strongly believe that if you believe in change, then why wait for it? A question I always ask myself is what is happening to our youth? Now remain silent if I'm telling a lie, but please cut me off if I'm speaking the truth. Now what is happening to our youth? You see, the birth stage is 5th grade on first page. Forget switching classes because we switch blades like first aid that cut deeper than most like kids with bad grades. Now why is it that half of our school children are on medication? Now I thought we sent our children there to be students, not patients. You see, recess, they give us recess. They give us recess. They give us recess. Recess is nothing more than a prison yard, where tall students are left to one court with no choice but to ball hard. You see, they told us that the early bird gets the worms. But there are not enough worms to feed and teach these early birds, so we're left to play bye-bye birdie like loose bread on a curb, and these metal detectors, they can't detect this heat in me. That's why I wear clothes, because I have a right to my own privacy. But just because I wear this cotton on my back does not mean you can pick on me, because those days are over. We don't pick for free. Plus, I heard the justice system ain't got no pick for me. There's a national warrant out for anything that even looks like me. Now, we sit in class knowing that we were destined to fail but expected to pass. We sat with our backs straight and our necks cocked forward with our hands raised, trying to grab whatever piece of a dream we might have left, but we are all we have left. You see, we're the last of a dying breed. Please tell me that somebody in this room has Johnny's number so we can tell him he needs to plant more seeds, and we can sit back and watch each other grow, and we can finally have an answer to why the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You see, that's why in history class, I was often speechless, determined to fail no matter who teached, because throughout time, I was told history is easy once you repeat it. You see, they overpower my voice with their lies because they don't want you to hear the truth. They give us books that's dated back to the 80s because they don't want us to see the proof. They disguise it with glittery chains and rappers with slave names, but we're the ignorant race, right? I guess that's why we want fast cars and cruise ships that cruise through the Middle Passage. Now, how can we make honest money when even dead presidents lied? That's why we're stuck to the side. When opportunity comes, we're quick to jump on it just to remain sane and keep us from going local. But don't get me wrong, we always can fall back on that for local. Right now, what is happening to our youth? No, let me change that. What can happen to our youth if we took the time out to take their time out to find out the exact ingredients to this pudding where they say lies the proof? Stop telling us that the sky is the limit as you build more roofs. Stop telling these point guards to plant their feet. Tell them to think before they shoot. Let's start teaching these girls how to be role models instead of top models. Let's start teaching these youth how to be leaders instead of Twitter followers. Now, these opportunities out here are unlimited. Just be careful at what you're grabbing. Tell these young men that they can still have hoop dreams. Just aim for different baskets. And to my young women that use makeup to make up for what they think the mirror fails to reflect, know, my beautiful colored girls, true beauty is on the inside. There's no need to cover, girl. Now, I wish that this was something that they taught in class. Then maybe our young men wouldn't have to wear their pride halfway off their behinds. Now, let's teach this youth so they can teach their youth. And we can plant the seeds of knowledge, and we can raise the truth, and we can finally have a clearer picture of to what can happen to our youth. Thank you.
Only thing I got to say now is, y'all see what happens when you invest. Our children are like bank accounts. What you put into them is what you're going to get out. If it's negative, it's going to end up being negative. If it's positive, it's going to end up being more positivity. It's a chain reaction, and this is what we need in our communities. We went over time, so I'm going to end it right there. Last thing I will say, though, stop teaching them the sky's the limit. They can create their own universe and bring it to all of us. When they take that internal education and externalize it, it makes the entire world better. Each one, reach one, teach one. Go to www.pypm215.org or come to me for more information. Thank you. Thank you, Arcadia. We appreciate it.
Thank you.